the key thing that we need to keep in mind is that there is a golden rule of pitches. And what it is basically, if you don't have a listener, you don't have a pitch. So the thing is, as you can imagine, right, like if there's no one listening to you pitch, do you even really have a pitch in the first place? It's like that whole, like, if you cut down a tree in the forest, like, does it make a sound? And so the key thing is when you're making that pitch, you really need to go identify what's in it for the listener, right? Because if you don't catch the listener's attention, if you don't identify what their pain is and you show them how you're solving that pain, they're gonna say, sorry, not interested. I got other things to do, right? Kind of in an ever accelerating world, right? There are so many other ways in which people can catch our attentions, right? You know, there is Twitter, there's Netflix, there's Reddit, right? There are all these different things that are competing for our attention. And so we really need to make sure that we are top of mind for the listener. Well, how are we going to be top of mind? We need to identify for them how we're going to be solving their pain. And so, as an example, for those of you who are looking to do a pitch to convince judges to vote for you, right? I'm trying to solve for your pain of, well, how do I go craft this pitch, right? And for those of you who aren't doing pitches, right, you're probably not really paying attention throughout this presentation because there's nothing in it for you. There's nothing that you really care about. And so that's why it's so important that we need to identify what is in it for the listener, right? Because we need to identify what pain we're solving for the listener to even stick around to hear our pitch. If they're not interested and they just turn off their ears, your pitch is going to go completely unheard. And so it's really important, again, that we keep this golden rule in mind. What's in it for the listener? So as we go through the key components of the pitch, as we work through how to structure a winning pitch, what we need to do is we need to always keep the question in mind, what is in it for the listener, as we work through kind of all the components. So speaking of components, what makes up a pitch? Well, a pitch really contains the 4 following elements. There is a hook, something to catch someone's attention. There's a problem, right? What problem are you trying to solve for them? The solution that you have on hand, and the call to action, what action you want them to take. On top of that, a pitch also needs to keep in mind the following constraints. You need to make sure that your audience is, you've accounted for your audience's familiarity with whatever it is that you're pitching. You need to worry about time constraints, and you also need to worry about the competition that you face. And so these are all really key components to making sure that your pitch stands out in a crowded marketplace, in a competition. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into each of these, and we're going to break them down, and we're going to look at it from the eyes of what is in it for the listener. Because if we cannot address the listener's pain, they're not going to pay attention, or even if they're listening, they're not going to be eager to go take that action that you're proposing.